Hi everybody, this is Sam from Hunter's Design Studio. How you doing tonight? Yes, it's evening. I'm recording a little video for the inner circle, for the followers. And the question that I'm trying to answer tonight is, what do you do when you've lost your sewing mojo or your sojo? We've had a couple of inner circle members who've written in and said that they've had a lot of anxiety recently, and they want to be in their studios working, but they just don't have what it takes. So how do you get back to that? So the first thing I want to talk about is, when you're not in the mood, you're not in the mood. And in times of great stress and anxiety, the most important thing that we have to remember is that we need to be kind. And not just kind to everybody else. We already know that. But we need to be kind to ourselves. As women, we've been cultured for so long to be the people that hold it all together with a smile on our faces. As the old joke goes, Ginger Rogers did everything Fred Astaire did, but backwards and in high heels. We're the peacemakers. We're the fix-it people. We're the mom, where is it people. And so we bring a lot of expectation to ourselves to be perfect, to be everything that everybody needs. And then when anxiety starts landing itself on our shoulders, it gets very difficult to function, because now we're up against not feeling well and a pressure to feel like we have to act like we are. So the first thing that I would say to you is, if the thoughts you're thinking about yourself are not the kind of thoughts that you would say to a friend or a stranger or a loved one or even your dog, then you need to not be saying those to yourself. So give yourself a break. Then after that, what kind of tricks can we use to get us back sewing again? So the first thing is, don't take on a really huge project to begin with. This is not the time to start into your Baltimore album quilt, or something that has a lot of really complicated techniques that you don't already know well. When you're trying to get your sojo back, the most important thing is to do something that you can do without thinking too hard about it. You want to be able to get to the point where putting things together and putting them through the machine, 4 patches, strip quilts, something like this, but something that's easy and something that builds that hand motion rhythm. I firmly believe that a lot of the things that we do as sewists, whether we're knitting, whether we're stitching, whether we're crocheting, whether we're pushing things through the machine, cutting, all of those different things have a rocking motion to them, a forward and backward, an in and an out motion, which is similar to what we do when we rock a child. And I think we often have a lot of these types of activities in our lives that represent rocking, because at some point that rocking actually soothes. Oops, sorry, put hand over microphone. It actually soothes us. So find something that will have that kind of kind repetitiveness to it. It might be a UFO, it might be a new project, it might be cutting into something easy, a fat quarter tower, a strip pack, or something you've been holding on to for a really long time. And if it is a project that's already existing, one of the first things to do in your UFO pile is bring it out and then write down all the steps. I have to do this step. I have to make block number 1. I have to make 16 of them. I need to make block number 2. I need to make 20 of those. I need to sew the rows, sew the columns, all of those different kinds of things. But break the steps down into manageable chunks, things that can be done in, let's say, a half hour. Because if you have those all down on a list, just a scrappy piece of paper will do, and pop it in with the project in whatever kind of a container or baggie or something that you keep your project in. Just list those steps, and then when you decide to get it out, you don't actually have to think hard about what comes next. You just look at the list and then first thing on the list that isn't crossed off is the next step that you need to do. So it takes away decision making. You don't have to sit there and go, am I doing this or am I doing that? It's just like you're just doing the next thing. The other thing about breaking it down into half-hour bites is, let's face it, we can probably do anything for half an hour. And even if you need to trick yourself into it, you can promise yourself a nice cup of tea and a chocolate biscuit at the end of that half an hour. And trust me, I do a lot of bribing myself into finishing things at times, especially when I'm not having fun with them. So set up some kind of treat or reward for the end of that half an hour. And then promise yourself perhaps all you have to do is sew 5 seams. Because let's face it, we can all do 5 seams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sit down and have your cup of tea. The hardest part of any project at all, whether it's a sewing project, a baking project, getting the laundry done, is the first step. With the laundry, you've got to pull it out and sort it. You've got to find it. You've got to empty the pockets, right? With a quilting project, sometimes the first step is complicated with a new project. You're choosing fabric, which can be complicated. It can be fun, but it can be challenging. To get color right can be kind of challenging. So don't put yourself through that. Make a very easy, small finish. And the reason for making this easy, small finish is that if you can win at that small bite, then you walk away a winner. If you've made the steps so large that they're sort of the virtual equivalent of build Rome, the first step on that would be, where are the boundaries? The next step might be buy a shovel. I mean, it's so big that in order to get one step done is going to take you a long time. So it doesn't matter how far you get into that step. If you haven't completed it, you can walk away feeling like you didn't have a win. And the best thing that we can do to get Mojo back is to feel like we have a win, feel like we have our completions, feel like we have a step further down the road that we can check off the box. So when you're outlining these things, really, really, really make them very, very small and very, very digestible. Most of us get a real charge out of being able to check something off the list. The other thing about losing your Mojo is maybe this isn't the season to be sewing. Think about that. Sometimes we are we're just pumping it out. We're keeping the quilters busy. Sometimes we just are not in the season where the sewing makes sense, or we can cope with the mess that sewing makes. I don't know about you, but my house looks like a lint factory all the time because of how much sewing I do, and I'm invariably covered in little bits and pieces. Sometimes that's more than we want to deal with. And I would say if the Mojo is gone, it's okay. It's okay. Just like the fields go fallow in order to regenerate in springtime, sometimes our creative energy needs to do the same thing. It needs to take a break. It needs to take a rest. A lot of times with our creative energy, we're using it on behalf of other people. We are sewing for babies, for weddings, for graduations, for first cousins once removed, for the grandparents, for the grandchildren, for the neighbor whose daughter is about to have a child, for the latest tragedy that we feel that if only we could wrap people up in quilts, maybe it would make them hurt a little less. All of our quilts of valor, quilts of honor, the quilts that we send out into the world with Project Linus, PICU quilts. My guild makes a lot of quilts for the pediatric ICU. And all of these carry a heavy emotional load. So perhaps what you need a break from is not necessarily your sewing machine, but it's a break from carrying the load of having to make so many things that hopefully please people. So consider that maybe this is the season that you're not sewing. Maybe you're embroidering. Maybe you're knitting. Maybe you're pulling out your crochet. Maybe you're going to bake cookies. Maybe you're going to learn how to bake bread. Maybe you're going to read a book. Maybe you're going to go for more walks. Maybe you're going to take a shelf and just organize a shelf instead. But again, I want to return back to this concept of the first step of all of this is please, please, please be very kind to yourself. And if you don't have any Sojo, trust me when I say it will come back to you. I've been a creative pretty much since I can remember. The first time I remember wanting to be an artist, I was probably 6 years old. I started sewing when I was 7, and I kind of haven't stopped. And I've had seasons where I haven't sewn and I haven't made art. I was perhaps in between jobs and it was too stressful. I was in graduate school, really stressful. All of those different kinds of things. But I can assure you that your creativity never actually leaves you. It's a gift we all have. It's always there for us to access. Sometimes it doesn't play nicely, but it's always, always, always there. So don't feel like you've abandoned it or it's abandoned you. It will be ready for you when you're ready to come back to it, just like riding a bicycle. All those muscle memories that we have learned in order to be sewists and quilters, all of them come back to you even when you take a break for a good while. So just trust me on that. It's all going to work out there. Anyway, I hope this helps you, my friends, and I'll get this posted. And if you have any other questions that you think I can help you with, please just drop me a line. We'll see what we can do. I'm happy to do little videos, and I'll see you around in the quilting aisles soon, I hope. Take good care of you, and I hope you have a really great day.